Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome back to another episode of Likewise. If you listened to Issa's mini, you would know that we are doing minis this week. We haven't done them in a long time, and that's what we call our little solo episodes that we do. We were just recently talking about how we haven't done one in a long time, and we've been doing so many guest episodes that we really missed minis. So I'm very excited to be doing one. And with June's monthly theme, I'm even more excited because I love talking about anything related to our theme, which is basic, like anything internet and pop culture related, what it means to be basic, being like other girls. I really loved Issa's episode, and I was just listening to it before I recorded, and I honestly didn't expect her to talk about me. And it just made me so happy because she was saying such sweet things, and I think when you listen to this episode you'll realize why it meant so much, or like why it kind of like made my heart happy, made it dance in my chest and whatnot, because it kind of, I don't know, it just really made me feel better with just how I've been feeling recently, which is a little burnt out. And something fun that we usually do in our minis, or at least we did these for like our minis from Podmas. We kind of like did fun little like questions at the beginning to replace our roses and thorns, and so for that we did like what like flavor candy cane we felt like, and then oh, you know what, actually we used to do this with like other minis before then. We talked about like what we were drinking, like what the drink of the episode was, and I swear like mine was always some sort of like Poppy or Olipop, because I love a little Poppy or Olipop. But today, my drink of choice is water, because if you can hear my raspy little voice, I've been kind of sick, which I might mention in this episode as well. And this is the best my voice has sounded in a week. So my mini was supposed to be up way before it's going up now, and I literally could not record because it was like this time last week I was like, I think I'm gonna record my mini, but then like by the time it got to the nighttime after work, my voice had like shifted so much, and anytime I tried to talk I would start coughing, which was so terrible. So if we have roses and thorns right now, that would be my thorn. But yeah, I'm just so excited to be doing a mini, and I just wrote out some notes for it, and I have a lot more that I realized I wanted to talk about than I originally thought I was going to have, so that's exciting. So let's just get into it. So for my mini, I'm going to tell you the story of my life recently. I'm telling you how I girl bossed too close to the sun. Picture me in a t-shirt that says I girl bossed too close to the sun and all I got was burned, or like all I got was this t-shirt. I'm trying to like think of like what the iconic meme is that's like I did this and all I got was this t-shirt. That's the tone with which I want you to take this in. I girl bossed too close to the sun and all I got was burned. Okay, let's talk about burnout. If you're just a girl like me, burnout is a total girly girl fave. Burnout is part of basic culture, and that's not what I said. So something that I learned about burnout forever ago in one of my older jobs, I was doing like a workshop presentation thing on it, and there's been like a bunch of research and like real academic things saying that burnout is like getting used too lightly, and that the word burnout can only truly be used for occupational burnout, and the burnout that most people talk about when it comes to like just your mental well-being and all these things isn't real burnout apparently. And I think we don't really need to do that. I think even if like you want to say it needs a different term, if it's not occupational or like can't be classified as burnout, like real burnout, whatever, like if it needs another word, why do we need to come up with another word to say that what you're feeling is not burnout because it's not occupational? I mean, to a point, I understand it, but I do think you really can get burnt out from anything. Like, I'm not going to tell you that your feelings of being burnt out, because, I mean, that's just a good use of language. Like, I'm feeling burnt out. I know exactly what you mean, and I'm not going to say that, oh, it's like I'm burnt out from reading. Oh, that's not burnout because it's not your job. Sorry, no. I think that the feeling of being burnt out from something is so valid, even if it's not occupational. So yeah. Just wanted to say that a little bit. Like, I do think that's very interesting, and I think it's cool to research and know about burnout and what it falls under burnout and whatnot, and why we get burnt out and all these things. But I think it's interesting that there's like arguments about it over whether you can say that you're suffering from burnout if it's something that's not like occupational. Why I want to talk about burnout is because when you like push yourself too far, so if we're staying on this whole I girl boss too close to the sun thing, like staying in the sun too long, pushing through the burn, like if you're pushing through the burn, you can make yourself so vulnerable that you just crack. And really, it's just kind of why we end up in these slumps or funks, is how I see it. And so, why don't we talk a little bit about my funky slumpy? Because I've been trying to ignore it for a while now, and I think it really only made it worse, and I think I'm finally, fingers crossed, like I'm finally at the end of it, but it's been pretty bad. And I think I've been in a slump from everything. And so, sometimes, you know, you girl boss too close to the sun. I've had some very high highs recently. They took me to the sun, they carried me there. Had these really high highs. They were giving me that like fuel to like get so close to the sun. So, my high highs that I've had. I, like 6 months ago, found out that I got a new job in my same company, just like moving positions, moving teams. And so I've been in like a transitionary period for a while. Like, I'm very excited, got this new role, all these things, and then also just had extra responsibilities, taking on some other things that I did not used to do. And then I also, in April, had the release of my poetry book. And then in May, Issa and I announced that we're co-writing a romance book, and that just like was a very fun, exciting moment. Had a lot of interaction and whatnot. We've had a lot of growth of the podcast, and like we just had a lot going on in May, and we were doing so many things for the podcast and for our book, for Same Way Books, all this stuff, that it was like very fun. There was such a fast momentum with all that stuff. And then I even had like some like little mini weekend trip things, like just like few hour drives, going to bigger events, and then like I did just recently have my really big trip to LA. And so I had so many high highs. There was just, like I said, like a fast momentum. There's so much growth, there were so many new things to be excited for and whatnot. But I feel like sometimes while you're having these really high highs, you also have like little cracks. I think I skipped over a point where I was going to say that like I was in the vulnerable phase for so long, and then had hit like a few small cracks and then pushed through those cracks, but now I've been fully cracked, and that's why I've been in a slump. And so like little cracks I think can slip through and like happen while you're riding the highs, and just because you're riding these highs, like you can kind of look past them and keep going, because like your highs are outweighing the lows at that point. But you're like looking past the lows and maybe they'll catch up to you, and that's almost what knocks you down and gets you burnt out, is when all of it piles up and catches up to you. So I think along the way of riding all those highs, I was having these little cracks that I was ignoring, of just like my mental health in general, and then having a lot of busy work weeks, and just added on stress with like the new responsibilities, even though I was so excited. And then also like something that was kind of a high was I was making a bunch of diet changes. I cut out dairy and gluten. I've been eating really close to a autoimmune paleo diet, to try and like heal myself from my mold toxicity, just from having like joint pain and like unanswered health things. And so it's kind of a high to make those changes, but I also know that like when you make drastic changes to your diet, that's obviously going to affect you in a lot of ways, like hormonally and all those things. So I think the diet changes and just like it making something like a weekend errand, like grocery shopping, a little more difficult can really affect everything about how your week is going to go. And so now, because all those little cracks kind of piled up and fully cracked me, now I'm just dealing with being like sick on top of being busy at work again, or like I got really behind on like doing my mini like episodes, planning, like making sure we're caught up on notes for our next guests and whatnot, and just like not having the motivation to do it because I like cracked and just like felt like I couldn't be creative anymore. Like I just needed a huge break, just felt so burnt out. Like I just got behind. So now I've just been, I don't know, just feeling down about the fact that I got behind, and then like being behind on social posting and responding to DMs and group chats, like just being present. Like I've just been so behind and have not been seeing things, and I feel bad because it makes me feel like I've been ignoring my friends, which I feel like when you're feeling kind of down and you're burnt out about something, when it gets to like an emotional level like that, you should be leaning on your friends to try to like help pull you out. But I'm definitely a person who isolates, so that's kind of what I've had going on. But I swear I am okay and I'm making it out. I think the problem is it was very much a creative thing, and I was feeling burnt out from all my creative hobbies, so like the podcast and writing and all this stuff. So like anytime I had a lot of Instagram notifications or something, like I just didn't want to open them because I had no desire to be like in that space. So yeah, enough about me. I did not want this to be like a life update or whatever. I wanted to just talk about burnout in general and kind of like, I don't know, talk about how I see these cracks and things starting to happen, or like why we get burnt out, or how it happens, or how I see it happening, and maybe it's relatable. But I think the more important part to talk about now is how do we get out, because it's really not that easy, and I don't think I even have a good answer or the right answer, but I have an answer. So yeah, it's really not that easy. And Issa and I actually have an older episode on burnout from when we were in college, and we really did not have an answer then, and whatever answer we gave was not very good, because we said the only way out is through, which is like true, and that is like what most of us do because it's what we have to do. Like you can't stop everything, and you honestly like have to keep going, which is not fun. But now that I'm an adult and my plate is somehow even more full than it was then, I just like have realized I have a little bit different of a mindset. Back then it was very much, yeah, you gotta just keep going, you gotta still do everything. But now my mindset is that if there's things that you can take a break from, take a break. And I know that doesn't sound easy either, but obviously some of those small things that you realistically could take a break from, but you just don't want to, or you'd feel guilty like not doing your hobbies, or like you think you would still benefit from doing them, I promise you, just pick something and take a break from it, because even if you don't choose to take a break from it, you might just take a break from it anyways because you're so exhausted and your body wants to rest. And sometimes your body just like takes over, and like, for example, you get sick or something. That is like your body telling you to stop and to slow down and take a break. Which once again, does not sound easy. So, I'll let you know. I know it's hard, because whenever I take a burnout break from the things that I kind of identify that I can take a break from, like writing or something, I find myself really suffering from like guilt in that sense of productivity, because I get frustrated that I'm just rotting away, or I'm not getting much done, or I'm like kind of just letting the time slip away. Like I haven't written I wrote a little bit when I was in LA, and it was barely anything, and did not get much further. And I already hadn't written in like a week from then. So I feel like I haven't really written all month. And I was kind of riding a high of like, we booked our date for our edits for our book. And so like I was riding that high and we're like, yes, we're getting so much done. And then it was just like, boom, no inspo, can't be creative, here's the burnout break. And I think a lot of that stems from just like, I always wish that I have more time for my creative hobbies. But sometimes you just need to rest, and you hit a point where you push through it, or you try to push through it, and it just makes it worse. And so, like I said, something is writing. So if you're in a creative low, like me right now, you might sit down and try to write and have a terrible time. And maybe you will force yourself to write a few hundred words and hate it the whole time and hate everything you write, because everyone says to just make yourself do it and force yourself to write every day, even if you don't want to. And maybe you will have that creative breakthrough that pulls you out of your slump. But I think you don't have to follow everyone's advice all the time, because different things will work for different people. So don't force yourself into something that isn't working for you just because it's pretty good. It's good advice. I will say it is good advice, and it has worked for a lot of people. But if it doesn't work for you, it does not work for you. No matter how many times you try it, it's not going to make it work for you. And that is something that's been really hard for me to learn. And I think because that falls into like the comparison thing a little bit. But I really think just like, if you identify that it's something you can easily take a break from, even though it's not easily, it's something that you can take a break from, even though it will be hard, I say just do it. Take the social media break. Maybe take a social media break, but let yourself still DM your friends. Or if you're close friends with someone, be like, hey, actually, can we just exchange phone numbers and text? Or can we like call or something at the end of the week, because I'm gonna go off of social media this week. Like, find other ways to be a little bit more intentional and allow yourself that time to have a break, or else like the little cracks will catch up to you and you will have a forced break if you don't give yourself the breaks when there's things telling you need one. You will have a big break that is just forced upon you, and maybe it will be your body getting sick and just making you take a break and making you rest and not be able to do any of the things. Would you rather take a step back and take a break from 2 things for a week? If it means at the end of that week you'll be excited to pick them back up and be able to do everything and have your plate full again. Or would you rather have your plate so full that it breaks, and then for a week you're picking it all back up and you can't do any of it? I'm calling myself out, because this is exactly what happened to me. But, sometimes you gotta give advice that you can't take. But yeah, if you're like me and you feel guilty when you're burnt out and you're taking a break, maybe just anytime you're feeling guilty, make it a point to tell yourself it's not selfish to take time for yourself when you're in a slump. Like, a slump is not selfish. Wow, I should put that on a t-shirt or something. A slump is not selfish. Wow, that's so good. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna put that on my wall. That's something I need to see. And yeah, but I do think I'm making it out, and I hope the way I feel, or the way I've talked about getting in a slump and being burnt out, was relatable or helpful. Thank you so much for listening to my mini, and I just really hope you've been having a good week, and I'm really excited for our next episode, because we have on a guest that we've had before and is one of our really, really good friends, and we're recording tomorrow, so that's why I'm thinking about it so much right now. But I'm just so excited for that episode, and I know y'all will love it, And if you haven't listened to Issa's mini yet, but you're listening to mine, go back and listen to hers because it's really, really good. And it kind of made me want to talk about the same thing as her, but burnout and all the things I've been feeling and what's been going on in life is all I've been able to think about. And I think it's helping me get out of it by talking about it. So that's kind of fun. So maybe that's like another piece of advice. If you like need help getting out of being burnt out and whatever, and you want out of your burnout break, talk about the way you're feeling with one of your friends, or maybe just like pretend you have a podcast and talk to your voice notes and write it all down or something, and really just like think through how you're feeling, because for me, I think I don't understand it unless I try to like process this. And talking through it, I'm kind of like realizing how it all happens and how I felt through every step of everything, and it's helping pull me out and get me motivated. And recording already like just gets my creative juices flowing again, so I think that's helping me tap back into that creative side that's been a little squashed. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much for listening. You guys are the best. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at likewise_pod, because it's so fun, and we're trying to post a lot more reels, which is really fun, and just posting a lot more content, even though I just said got behind on posting. But yeah, we're posting so much content over there, and that's how you know you'll never miss an episode, because we always tell you about it over there. And then also, if you never want to miss an episode, make sure you're following us on whatever streaming platform you use. So on like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just hit the following button. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye!